Welcome to the new and improved Grounded Spirits podcast, a place where you can learn that you are 100% human and 100% divine all at the same time. I'm your host, Laura Lynn, and today is the first day that I have a theme song. Like, this is just so exciting. Long overdue. I've been wanting one since the beginning. And now here it is. And so many hours went into it, but I am happy with what it came out to be. So I hope that you like it too. And yeah, let's jump into today's episode. So the episode today, just as all the future episodes, are going to be about self-expression and what self-expression means, how people can interact with their expression in through their mind, bodies, and souls. So that's how we're going. By doing that, by splitting them up, the goal is that then we can bring them all together. Like, you have your mind, body, and soul be balanced so that they can become one. And then I feel like when they become one, then that is when you have perfect self-expression. Which reminds me, I forgot to mention that in my last episode. I talked about the future of grounded spirits and about self-expression and all of that, but I forgot to mention that the phrase that I put in quotes, perfect self-expression, comes from the book The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn, where she talks about the perfect four that you need in your life. It's like the perfect square of life, and it's when you have perfect self-expression, when you're healthy, wealthy, and full of love. And then she goes on to say that for the perfect self-expression, it's that you have to be your truest self, because only you have the perspective and the skills to do what needs to get done. Like, you have a specific role that only you can have, and that could be just an experience, like you're the only person that's going to experience this thing in a certain way, and that is just so remarkable and so beautiful. And if we're trying to be somebody else, then who's going to be us, so yeah, that's all about the whole self-expression. And I'm really excited for this new chapter of Grounded Spirits and diving deep into what self-expression means and connecting to the mind, body, and soul. And then if you go to the website, you'll see that I split them up from the old one. You know how it used to be like Grounded Spirits Podcast, a place where you can learn about creativity, nature, and yourself. And then see, I already lost it. It's only been one episode. But yeah, so how those would line up. And I did a whole redo on the website, so if you want to go check that out, it's all there. And yeah, so now to introduce you to our guest for today. His name is Berneman, and we have such a great conversation about self-expression and about his philosophies and about his story of how he founded Conscious Action. So if you want to learn more about how to feel your feelings, how to be in touch with your body, how to just connect with others, this is the episode for you. So I'm excited for you to listen to this episode. I have sprinkled some new fun stuff in there, so I'm excited for you to hear that part too. And I'm just really happy that everything I feel is now falling into place. And so just thank you so much for going on this journey with me for the last 2 years, and I'm excited for us to start the new beginnings, so pretty special. So now to present to you Brian after the break. Okay. Hi Brian, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you, Laura, for having me in this space.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to talk about all the different things that you do that you're able to express yourself with. So I first want to get your take on what self-expression even is. How would you define that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think, like in my view, at least, expression doesn't need to be like super, like out there. Expression can just be just being, like someone with their presence, they can just be expressing something that might be being calm or being still or being quiet. So a lot of times for me, expression is about, how we are showing up in the world and as well, what other people are perceiving in terms of that.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you talked about like being like quiet and calm is also a form of expression because I feel like on my journey I have been trying to like be more expressive and to like put myself out there more. But I feel like it is also in those times where I do enjoy my alone time and that is also a form of self-expression. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So I wanted to jump into your journey and how you got to the place that you're at now. But looking at it in the lens of your relationship with your mind and how your mind has, like, by expressing your mind, how has that led you to the place that you're at now?
Yeah. I think, like from this lens, it's really interesting because when I was a kid, I was super stressed out. Uh, and that was, like my norm, even though I didn't know that that was what was happening until I learned otherwise. So until the moment that I actually started to learn more about myself and through different practices, I started to do that. I started to notice, oh wow, I'm really stressed out. When I was driving as a teenager, I had road rage and all of that. And then suddenly I started to notice by doing other things that perhaps weren't so tied to the mind itself, but more to the body and to the feelings, then my mind started to shift because my perception started to shift about experience. And therefore, I started to not get that reaction. And then I started to notice, like, oh, wow, like when I'm driving and someone is cutting me off, like I'm not reacting anymore. I'm not shouting or, getting whatever it is that I was doing. And so I was like, okay, what's that? So I started to reflect and question and started to put two and two together in all of the things that I was doing and the practices. And suddenly it's like, oh, okay. And now I can look back and, like for the last 15 plus years, I haven't experienced stress. And that for me is a very different way of living than what the majority people are experiencing and what I used to experience.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you brought up driving because that has been my number one thing. I'm like, why does like someone driving slow in front of me, it literally ruins my whole day. And I'm like, why? Like there's no reason for it. And I feel like it's like what you're talking about of having that awareness that before I was just so enraged that I wouldn't even take a second to even have the awareness that it was happening until after. So it kind of reminds me of like chakras when they're overexpressed. It could also be bad. Like you want to have like your chakras balanced. So could you maybe give some tips of how to not overexpress your mind? Is it just by going further into the body, or how would you see it?
Yeah, well, for me, there's this really interesting thing, and I talk about this a lot with my clients and my students that, there's a time and place for separating, mind, body, feelings, heart. Like there's a time and space for separating all of that. But we also need to get sometimes to a place that there's no separation. So we're experiencing, like all in a sense, like there's never an actual separation between mind and body, yet we might need to work in that way to actually create the changes. So for me to be able to understand, like, okay, how am I showing up and how is this actually supporting me or supporting, others and the people around me or even the world, then it was about slowing down and reflecting and being more in touch with my experience and seeing as well, like what's the impact that I'm creating by acting in this way or behaving in this way and understanding, well, this isn't helpful. So, like if this isn't helpful, then what is helpful? And just using questioning a lot and questioning without wanting to get an answer, but just questioning to unravel the, like the conditioning and the programming that I knew and that I grew up seeing. Because the reality is that I grew up in Argentina, and I grew up, seeing a lot of things that actually are not helpful as a society and as ways of behaving and as ways of being with ourselves and with others. So when noticing that the norm actually wasn't balanced and wasn't, like healthy, then I need to start to ask a lot of questions to myself, and then being like, okay, do I want to live in this way or no? And I decided I didn't. I didn't want to play into all of those things. So, like, then just changing my perception, slowing down, getting closer to the feelings, and then trusting and surrendering to what the universe has in store for me as well. So that's when things start to, mix. But at different times, I did do a lot of mind, questioning, reflecting, and just asking those questions to create the change.
Yeah. No, that's incredible, and I love the whole part about surrendering because that's what I've been working on myself too, that, I can only control the things that I can control and that are like, I can't be worrying about all of these other things that I have no control over, so, yeah, I definitely, love that take and
Yeah. Uh,
to oh, go ahead.
like with that, like living in the present is so important for that. Because, like, yeah, it's interesting the control aspect of things, because what can we actually control? Like, control sometimes is an illusion. Yes, there are
Yeah.
things that are closer to what I can, let's quote unquote, control. But the more that I surrender, the easier it is to flow with life, instead of all of the time, like going against things and trying to push and push and push. Like my way, or my entire way of seeing life is life can be easy. Like that doesn't mean that there's no challenges or difficult circumstances, but it's about how am I navigating it and how am I experiencing it. And then it's, like looking from now forward, I can learn from the past as well. And it's like, okay, like if different situations that happened that, like weren't helpful for me, happened because of different ways that I was behaving and circumstances, then what can I change to actually not do that? So, like that control aspect of things, it's like, well, like I know that if I, for example, if I actually create a good structure in my day based on a few different things that work for me, then I actually, like I don't get stressed. I don't get, like late. I don't go late anywhere because I'm all of the time, for example, like planning ahead. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, I know that if I have a meeting at this place and it's going to take me 25 minutes to get there, for example, it's like, well, like I can plan. There might be some, accident on the road or someone doing this or that. So I'm going to plan to like leave 40 minutes before. And if I arrive there early, then I arrive there early. But I know that I won't arrive there late unless something crazy happens. So, it's about learning from the past and projecting, but acting now. And that is the interesting thing about, the flow and the dance between control and surrendering as well.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like everything needs balance, but then also not. So it's like what you were saying at the beginning with the mind, body, and soul that we have to have it so that they're all working together, but sometimes it is useful to separate them. So would you say that when they're all acting together, then that's flow?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, like we would need to get to a place that everything is actually acting together,
Yeah.
that there's no separation. As I said, like I see this as well a lot of times with a lot of the ways that we're living. We try to compartmentalize everything in our lives. And it's like, like there's work, there's, like life, there's family, there's friendship, there's all of these different compartments. And it's like, well, there's no actual compartments. It's all just one. Then yes, I might show up differently, or they look differently, and they might need something different from me. Yet it's all one. There's no separation. But again, to work with them, I might need to look at this and it's like, okay, like at work, I'm showing up like this, or in relationships, I'm showing up like this. So again, it does help to separate and compartmentalize sometimes, but then coming to the place that there's only just one.
Yeah. So it's kind of like with the healing, like you need to separate it to like investigate it further. So
Mm,
yeah, that's really cool. So I wanted to break for our first game. So the first one is just I'm just gonna give you some random words and then it's just word association. So whatever pops into your head, just don't hold back, whatever comes up. So the first one is peace.
peace, life. That's like that's the way of living.
Knowledge.
Knowledge is mm, ooh, knowledge is good. Wisdom is better.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Mindfulness. It's a necessary way of living to actually stay well.
Hmm. Teacher.
Teacher, power dynamics, understanding we are our own teachers. We can learn from others, but not giving our power away.
Wow. Great one. Healing.
Healing. Healing is all about a return to wholeness. Anytime that there's a healing happening, it's about going back to our true nature.
Poses.
Again,
Like yoga poses.
poses, learning flows and structures, and how different things actually open, how different poses can be keys to open different doors.
Breathing.
Breathing is life. The moment that you stop breathing, you die. So it's quite important.
Yeah. Balance.
Balance is in especially nowadays and in this society, balance is what we need to strive for because we are out of balance in a lot of different aspects. As an example, we need to get back to balance in the way that we're giving and receiving energy, time, money, everything. There's a huge imbalance in now at this moment, both in ourselves and in the way that we operate as a society and with this earth. So we need to get back to that place of balance.
Definitely. I think we'll end there. That was so great. So how was the experience for you to think about these random questions? I mean random words.
It's good. I think that there are things that I talk about a lot and that I share about a lot, and but it's always interesting what comes up in the moment. So it's always nice to have those. So thank you.
Yeah. So it was just really cool, like the things that you came up with. So I wanted to just like dig a little deeper. So with teacher talking about like um sharing that energy, but then also keeping your power. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is something, that I think that it's really important is understanding how we've been conditioned and how um, we a lot of times are giving away our power to someone in a position that we as a society and then we internalize that we think that they are in a higher place than us. That can be like a doctor or a teacher or something like that, but it's completely unconscious, and that's the key. So we need to understand that in all of those relationships or interactions there's a power dynamic happening. um, this is key because especially like in the spiritual world, there's been a lot of challenges with that, with abuse of power. So I think that it's really important as a like as an individual to understand that anytime that I'm going to interact with someone that is in a position of more knowledge or more wisdom on a specific thing, I can take that and I can actually, be grateful for that, but I don't need to give away my power. I can stay with my own power and I can actually understand, yes, they might be giving me some wisdom or some understanding or some teachings, but that doesn't mean that they are better than me. That doesn't mean that I need to, release everything for them. I might, like I've studied like with some teachers for a long time, and I basically immerse myself in teachings and in teachers, but that doesn't mean that I'm losing my own power. And I think that that's important nowadays to understand this, because we tend to do that, and then we tend to live by what others are telling us instead of what actually is true for us. So the same as like with doctors, for example, if a doctor tells you, there's, you have this diagnosis, and then they give you a prognosis, you might believe that, even though that might not happen. So, like, if you give away your power in that example to a doctor or to a teacher, and they tell you, like, this is going to happen, then are you believing that? Or can you actually create a different circumstance to not make that like be true? So there's a lot of really interesting, and we could explore this so much, but at the end of the day, for me, it's so important to understand that we are all unique and we are all teachers in a sense. We are here to learn from everybody. And yes, I might focus on something, and there might be someone specific that has a lot of like wisdom or a lot of years on working with something, so I can go and learn from them. But that doesn't mean that they are better than me, that I'm going to give away my power. So it's about, taking that responsibility and being like, yeah, I'll listen to you, but I'm not going to listen to you if that means not listening to myself.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like we have like a filter. And so all this knowledge is coming to us and we have to filter like what is going to work for us and what isn't going to work for us. That's
Yes,
awesome.
and I'm with that, and this is the way that I live. Like, I live by resonance. So it's like what resonates, and there's a moment that, like, especially with like those power dynamics, there's going to be some moments that perhaps like you get some noise, and it's like, oh, that doesn't, like that way of behaving or that way of thinking, or it doesn't make like sense to me. So listening to that, like making sure that we go with what resonates with us, and whatever doesn't, we just leave it out. And it's like, it's one of the things that I say to my students a lot, like, if I'm talking or sharing something and that doesn't ring true to you, then just disregard it. Like, you don't have to take it as true if that doesn't resonate with you. Like, we could take time to actually try to understand why that doesn't, and come up with, like, was that just something that you have aversion to, even though it might be true, or it's actually that's not for you. So the more that we investigate in our experience how we resonate with things, then it becomes easier to notice that.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say that that would be like more of like the mind trying to like wrestle with it? Or is it more of the soul with what resonates? Because that is our like truest self in a way.
Well, that's the path of integrating, as we've been talking before, of integrating all of the different aspects, so that we can understand when is the mind, that the program mind talking, or when is my soul, or when is my body talking. Like, how does my heart talk? How does my gut talk? Or like your womb, how does it talk? And the more that we understand how those different aspects of our being actually communicates to us, then it's easier to understand, like, oh no, that's just my mind because I was conditioned to believe that this is it. But that doesn't ring true. Actually, like, when I actually investigate and take the time for my soul or for my heart, that doesn't ring true. So I need to understand that, so that like, I can actually follow what is real and true for me. And what's true for me doesn't mean that that's the truth. So, like, we all have our very own unique truth as well. So, but trying to understand, like, that might be the mind challenging something because that's just new to me. And that doesn't mean that that's wrong. That just means I'm not used to that. So, like, how do we integrate and how do we listen? But and this is just my view based on my own experience, most people have no idea how their bodies talk to them. They only know how their minds talk to them. And they don't even know how to like understand why their mind's talking that way. So the more that we do this work for ourselves, it's easier then to navigate life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I wanted to move into your relationship with your soul. So like your soul purpose, or like how, like we were talking about with the resonate, what things resonate, like how um how's your relationship, and how have you are able to express your truest self through that?
Mm. Yeah, so, and I mean, perhaps for someone that is listening, perhaps like the word soul doesn't resonate. For me, it does. Like sometimes, um, there's different words that are charged for different people with different meanings. For me, it's about essence. Like I use the word essence a lot more, just because that's how I connect with that word. And for me, it's about understanding, like the more that I I did I did a lot of practices and a lot of different learn a lot of different techniques that allowed me to understand when my soul is saying yes and when it's saying no. So it's easier for me to follow that and to be able to understand when I'm in alignment with my like soul or my purpose or the learnings that I'm here for, and when I'm not. So it's easier for me to navigate that as I have done a lot of that work again of listening and understand how to listen to myself. But one of the key things with that a lot of times is, like, and I see this with so many people, especially the younger people. It's like, as you're saying, what's my purpose? It's like, don't put so much pressure as well on the purpose. Like living life can be just the purpose. It doesn't need to be, a specific thing. I'm going to save like this forest, or I'm going to, like it, the purpose can be quite broad and also not something to pressure. Like we also need to allow things to unfold. So the more that I'm able to actually connect with that aspect, then it's easier to be like, okay, yeah, I'm on the right path. And that right path might change all of the time. I've lived in many different countries. I've done a lot of different things in my life so far. Um, but there's this kind of direction that I am going towards. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but there's a sense of a direction, and there's a sense of, okay, I'm going to trust and again surrender and follow that. And that doesn't mean that everything is easy, but everything feels right for me at least.
Yeah, exactly. I love that answer of just it's kind of like we are talking about at the beginning of with surrendering and to just like really understand like that there's so much more that's out there that we don't have to have all the answers right now. And I feel like that's the hardest thing for at least for me at the beginning of my spiritual journey. It was so hard for me to not know where I was going. Like I need to have I've changed my career path so many times. And then what's cool that now that I feel like I really am living my purpose, everything that I used to love that I thought I wanted to do is like now like showing up like the skills that I would have used for that job are like showing up in my like what I'm doing now. So it's just really cool how like all my dreams are coming true in
Mm.
a way. So
And there's a really interesting Now, there's a really interesting thing with this, which has to do with the fact of understanding how to be in the unknown, because a lot of times most people are not comfortable being in the unknown, and that unknown is actually a lot of times what's as you're saying, like there's different things that we have experienced that happen for a reason. So like we need to be open to that unknown and to be able to be okay with that.
yeah, and also to like put ourselves into uncomfortable situations because a lot of times we're just like in our little comfort zone and it feels great in here, like my little like cocoon, but it's like time to like explore new things and to um just try new things. So are you ready to do some would you rathers?
Let's do it.
All right. Would you rather meditate every day for an hour or spend an hour in nature, like on a nice walk?
Oh, meditate in nature, is that a choice?
That would be the
Meditate,
best.
like, well, I would say based on my past experience, um, I'm good with meditating for an hour.
The next one is They're all about meditating, the ones I chose today. But would you rather listen to uplifting music or listen to a guided meditation?
Uplifting music.
So is it like for me, I love like the frequency music. Like that's what I really love to do when I meditate. So is it like that kind of music or like uplifting um like top 40 kind of music?
For me, like when you said uplifting music, for me, it's something with a lot of rhythm that I can actually dance to almost. And it's like, like either a Latin or African rhythm
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then would you rather do yoga by yourself or in a group?
by myself.
Could you get into why?
Um, I I'm so used to practicing by myself with that, and a lot of times, um, I let me say this: I love the group energy, like when practicing, and at the same time, there's different things like some yoga practices that we're all unique and our bodies are unique. And a lot of times there's this element that I need to go at my own rhythm and do things in my own way. And sometimes that means that different people will do things in different ways. So then we are not actually doing the same thing at the same time. So I much rather just practice by myself.
No, I definitely see that because sometimes in yoga, you want to hold the pose, like your body's telling you to hold the pose a little longer than somebody else. So, yeah, that's really great. I didn't think about it that way. So, thank you.
But saying that, like I'm okay, like doing that in a group because I don't mind what other people might think if I stay longer on a pose. But I've been to classes and teaching a lot where people are looking at other people, and I'm always like, come back to like to your experience. Who cares what the other person is doing? But we've been conditioned to care and to compare. So that's why a lot of times it's like, well, it might be easier to just like practice by ourselves if we have the discipline to be able to do that.
Yeah. So that actually like is perfect to get into like your relationship with your body. So I read like that you love yoga, but you also do a bunch of other kinds of activities. So I'd love to get into that as well as the dancing that you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, like for me, the body is one of the biggest untapped resources that we have because our society teaches us how to be in the mind and not how to be in the body. It doesn't teach us how to actually feel feelings. So the more that I understood what feelings are, that feelings is just energy moving, then I understood how to be in relationship with feelings and how to experience life through that. So I went from, like emotions to actual feelings. So there's no patterns of behavior that are attached to feelings unless I get to the emotional level. So if I can actually feel the feelings before they get to where I actually put a label to them as an emotion, then it's much easier to navigate through life and to be able to process experience and not to create more blockages or trauma that I'm carrying on. So the more that I'm able to be in connection with the body, I'm more present and grounded in this moment, in the present. B, I can actually allow experience, whether it is, again, challenging or easy or whatever, my experience of it is what matters. So if I'm able to actually feel it in the body, it's easier. And, like for me, moving is so important. Like even if someone is watching this, I talk a lot with my body and with my hands, like I move a lot. And that's not just because I'm Latin, that's like from Latin America. That's also because of the way that I like to express and as you said, dancing. For me, there's something about, like moving through the rhythms and allowing the movement to actually move me and be one with the music or with the rhythms or with the energies. So the more that I'm able to be in my body and in relationship with my body, then it's easier also to feel the energy and to feel others and to feel the field of energy and the field of intelligence and knowledge that is everywhere available. And this is one of the reasons why I'm able to work so much with energetic healing as well, because I'm able to be open to that energy through my body. I don't have to think, I just literally surrender and feel, and then I'm able to see what the space is or what people are needing or thinking or what's happening, and then it's easier for me to show up in the way that actually is needed for my clients or for my students, or like when I'm just hanging with the family or friends. So it's always a really interesting space to be able to navigate. And for me, that was key to reconnect with my body and to learn about feelings. That was a huge pivotal point in my life.
So can you talk more about the energies and like how to feel with so this is what part I was confused about because it's that I understand like that you're feeling with your body so it is before it gets to the emotion part or like how could you just go more into that?
Yeah, so this is something that I learned from the Tibetan yoga practices, and this is coming from the Tibetan Buddhist teachings, at least the ones that I was introduced to. And there's a distinction between feelings and emotions. And the feelings is literally the sensation level experience, and that is understanding that what we are experiencing is energy. There's energy everywhere. Everything's energy. Even we are made up of energy. We're noticing is that energy moving. Now, the moment that we attach a label, and that's already thinking, even though emotions are actually kind of like a lot of times separate from the thinking, that is already, we're attaching a label to a feeling based on our childhood usually, or based on our past experience. That, for example, when I was a kid, if I had a, like if something happened and then I behaved in a certain way and someone said, why are you so angry, for example, then I attach whatever I was feeling, whatever in my body I was feeling, that I attach, oh, that's anger. So I learned that anger perhaps is like having a feeling in, like in my experience, it was, like somewhere in my belly. Perhaps for different people, this is different based on the experience in that moment. But what happens is that if I don't feel the feeling, if I just allow it to get to that pattern, then all that I'm doing is I'm no longer feeling what's happening now. I'm feeling what's happening in the past or what happened. Plus, I'm allowing that pattern of behavior to come with a reaction, which a lot of times reactions are unhelpful. So I might, experience something and I might behave in the same way. So I might respond. For me, this is a huge distinction between reacting and responding. Reacting for me is unconscious, responding is conscious. The action might be the same because perhaps the situation needs that or requires me to show up in the same way, but I'm not allowing that to be an unconscious pattern of behavior. I'm actually conscious and choosing. So I'm actually able to process the feeling and not create even further blockages or further trauma in my body that then I'm carrying that. So I'm always kind of like, instead of living through the past experience, I'm always feeling what's happening in the moment. And, with that, energy is not from one layer of experience. Energy is not good or bad. Energy just is, which means that anything that I'm feeling just is. I am attaching a lot of times the label or of this is good, this is bad, this is, like whatever. But that's just me adding labels to that. So the more that I'm able to flow with what is, the easier it is to be, because really what's happening just is. Like the universe doesn't, like it doesn't have a lot of those labels or the judgment. That's like something that we're doing. Therefore, a lot of times, something happens, and for one person that might be a positive, and for another person that might be a negative. But what happened. Like it's not good or bad. It's just our perception of it. So the more that I'm able to stay in that level of just feeling the energy and just feeling the sensation level, I'm able to actually be in the present and processing what's happening and not allowing that to go with me anymore.
Wow, so it's like literally we always talk about like in the full moon, like you let go of the energy that no longer serves you, but you're saying we could do it at any time. Like that's so like simple, but like it's like mind blowing, you know? That you
Yes.
can literally be releasing energy as you go. Like you don't have to hold on to it ever.
Yeah, well,
So
that's the thing, like why would I hold on to any energy? Like, this is one of the things I do a lot of healing work, and one of the things that I get asked a lot is like, why, like, it's like even I can do some work like, like for the day, and then it's like, oh, you're not tired. And I'm like, why would I be tired? I didn't use any energy. I just allow energy to move. So, like the more that we allow, the easier it is to navigate through life because I'm not taking anything in. I'm not, like creating any unprocessed experience. Like I have that from the past, and I keep on and like unraveling that and releasing those blockages or those traumas. But I all of the time aim not to add any more to that. So then I have the time to actually deal with what's happening. And what you mentioned about the, like a full moon or a new moon, there's moments that for our minds are really important to understand. This is, kind of like the end of the year. It's like, okay, this is a moment that I can use because my mind understand that's a moment. From another perspective, there's no such thing as time. Therefore, any moment, like, I can do that work, and any moment can be a new beginning. Any moment can be the chance. One of my teachers used to tell me, like every single moment is new. So you can choose to change something like that. Like now, and not judging. It's like, well, I didn't change. Well, now I have another opportunity, and now I have another opportunity, and now I have another opportunity. Like, so it's about not getting stuck with what happened before and how I've been. It's about, like, what can I choose each moment and understanding the potential of every new moment. And yes, of course, like I've been living through patterns of behavior. So then I need to actually address those because if not, then I'm going to keep on doing the same thing all of the time. That is one of the biggest types of work that I do is, like getting those changes to actually happen. Because if not, all that we're doing is the same and the same and the same and the same.
yeah, it completely like shifted my whole perspective. So thank you so much for that. So
Please.
I'd love to talk about conscious action. Um with your organization, how what is it? How it's all about it. I want to know everything about it.
So I I co-founded Conscious Action with a friend because at that moment I came to New Zealand, and then like to be able to stay here I had to find work so that someone sponsored me, and through that work I met like some people, and then when that place closed down, then we were like, okay, why don't we do like something like together. um and then it happened that by chance we with her we went to the same event one evening, and it was a screening of a documentary that it's called Plastic Oceans. And if someone hasn't seen that documentary, I recommend go and watch it. And what happened was that the documentary is showing like the state of plastics in the ocean, which is a really heavy like topic. And when the evening ended, I thought, oh wow, like there was all of these people that were in one room, and there was such a missed opportunity to actually, now that we saw all of that, to understand what can we do now that we know what's happening, what can we do, and turn it into a positive instead of getting what happened, which was on the way out. I heard a lot of people that were super depressed and being like, oh my God, like we are like in such a bad place. So I thought there's more than we can do. So then we got together and we started thinking, and we're like, well, why don't we start running events like this and workshops and on different topics that relate to conscious living and what's actually happening, so we can raise awareness of all of these different topics. And then we can actually understand what are the actions that we can take from that space. So we started to get a lot of guest speakers that were experts on different topics to talk about things. And through the years, like things started to morph and change. So then I run a lot more workshops and classes and events and work with businesses and individuals and like all of these different aspects of it. But the main thing for me are our values and really, like about that the main one that it's the first one that it's about connection. That is for me the key because connection for me is the key for everything. The fact that we are disconnected is the reason why we're living in the way that we're living now. We're disconnected from ourselves, as we've been talking, all of these different aspects of ourselves. Most of us only like live in our heads. We don't even understand our heads. So we're super disconnected from our experience. We're disconnected from each other, believing that we are separate and that, we need to compete and all of these things. And we need to judge and compare. So we're disconnected from each other and we're disconnected from our land, from our Mother Earth. Therefore, we treat her in ways that are not supporting for her. Going back to that balance of the giving and receiving or the taking and giving back. So connection for me is key. Then collaboration. For me, again, collaboration is key in the way of what I think and believe that we need to do. Come together. We are all unique and we come together and we actually make things happen. Celebration. Celebration is so important. Get into that space of celebrating and being grateful for what is. Whether that's a small or a big thing, it doesn't matter. We need to take time to celebrate because we are not like now what we were before. So anytime that we do something, taking some time to be grateful, to celebrate, like it doesn't need to be a party. We can throw a party, but it can be, like just a moment of acknowledging something. And then everything grounded in compassion. So when I understand that everybody has been conditioned and everybody has their own circumstances and I don't know them, then I'm going to hold everyone in compassion because I don't know what they've been through. And that's what I, would like everybody to hold me in compassion because they don't know what I've been through. So we can meet each other in that space. So this enables and coming together with the community, whether it's here locally or with everyone that work online, it's about getting to that place of connection and community and understand we're not alone. And then understanding, okay, how can we create those changes so that we can have an impact in the world? And that might mean that for someone, what they are going to do is in their family, for someone in their local community, for someone they might be in a position that they can create global change. It doesn't matter what your position is. It's about understanding the power that we have and taking responsibility and being able to understand that. So, I work a lot with businesses, running well-being programs for their employees. I work one-on-one with people, mentoring, coaching them. I work one-on-one with doing healings. I run a lot of workshops and events. So, there's so many topics, conscious living is every single topic, it can be conscious or unconscious. So whether it is spiritual, personal health and well-being, relationships, community, whether that is, sustainability and regenerative practices, ethical and social justice, everything can be seen through this lens. So there's no topic that, I don't go and explore. So there's topics that perhaps I haven't yet run an event on, but everything is underneath all of that. And for me, it's super important to understand we've been living unconsciously. So bringing consciousness and awareness and then taking action and making sure that we take the action that is the one that is the right for us at this moment. So, a lot of times when someone wants to make a lot of changes, they want to do everything all at once. For some people that works, for a lot of people that doesn't work. So it's what's the next one action that we can take to change and then go from there.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's so cool that you're my first guest of this new era of grounded spirits because like here's like my logo and it's exactly what you're talking about. Like we need the mountains, like the earth, but also the water is important. And then the grounded is like being connected to earth, and then spirits like being connected to source. And so it's like all of that balance that you're talking about, and like being awakened and like you said, like conscious living. It's literally everything. And so that's just so like remarkable that you're doing this work and that you're like a ripple, like you're starting here, like the small steps that you're talking about, the small steps, and it's just gonna go outward and getting everybody
Yeah.
involved. So wow,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
you know, there's something to be said about understanding the power that we have with that, as you're saying, the ripple effect. We don't know where that ripple effect is going to go, but it's really important to understand that we are going to create a ripple. Which kind of ripple do we want to create? And that is the key there, because it's like, everything that I'm doing is going to create that ripple. So being aware, it's the same with, I'm going to leave a footprint. We're all going to leave a footprint. How big or small, it's up to us.
Incredible. So my last question is usually like, what does the world need more of? But I feel like we kind of already talked about that. And so maybe do you have any tips on how to be a grounded spirit?
Yeah, we're all different. So I'm going to start there. There's some universal things that I do think that are helpful. And those are slow down, take some time, sit or stand or whatever, but create moments of stillness in your day. Create moments that you are not doing anymore, because we are not human doings. We're human beings. We need to create space to be. We need to be able to do that, to just be, to feel what's happening, to understand what's happening. And, like, where are we going so fast? Like people are all of the time I'm seeing people are on this automatic pilot going super fast somewhere. They don't know where they're going, but they're going really fast. So it's like, take the time to slow down and to question, is this the life that I want to live? Don't compare it to anybody else's. Like we can get inspiration from others, but it's not about being them, it's about being ourselves. Like, we need you to be you. That's, like, if you're not you and you're trying to be someone else, you're preventing all of us in the universe from your own gifts and your own medicine. So understanding that is key. And understanding, like, there's especially when I teach at the university and work with a lot of younger people, there's this like condition that people are not enough and people are alone, and like, everybody's enough and nobody's alone. Like, like, whether we've had super hard upbringings, and whether perhaps physically the people around us are not there with us, there's this whole other layer of the subtle, that, like, or the spirit world, that it's always there. All of our ancestors are always there behind us. All of those spirits and those guides are always there with us. I often say to a lot of people, everywhere that I am, I'm always with my entourage. Like, you cannot see them, but they are there. So it's, like, understanding we're not alone, and also understanding our power, and understanding our like, our uniqueness, our originality, understanding the ripple effect that we can have. Again, small or big, it doesn't matter, but understanding that and just standing in that power, and standing in our beliefs, and standing in our values, and understanding, like, doing some work to understand, are those that have been programmed, or are those actually my values, and then understanding, am I living in alignment with my values? So, all of that, it might take time to unlearn a lot to get to those places. And it's so important to do so, because I want to stand on my own truth, and I want to be able to live life and to enjoy it, because guess what? Life is precious. I don't know when it's going to end, and life is beautiful, and there's so much beauty around. But if I'm not noticing it, I'm missing it. So being able to create that space and that time, and not waiting until, like we hit rock bottom to create those changes. If there's something in your life that you think that is not working and you think that it could be better, what are you doing to create that? Because we are the creators. So, like a lot of times I say to people, you can rewrite your own story. Just, like understand you're the director, the writer, the producer, and the main character. And we all are at that. So are you actually taking that chance?
Beautiful. That I couldn't say it. Everything you said is perfect. It's just so much that just thank you so much because I feel like you have already like opened up so many doors for me, like in my mind to calm my mind and then to go to the other one. So yeah, just a lot to think about. Thank you so much. Could you tell everybody where how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. Online, whether that is on social media or through the website, either Conscious Action, NZ as New Zealand, or my name, Brian Berneman. I'm like there, just message me. Like I might not get back to you very fast, but I will get back to you. And I love connecting with people anywhere in the world, whether that actually leads to work or not. I don't care about that. I work only with the people that are the right match for me, and I'm the right match for them. So, like I care more about connection more than anything. So if someone wants to reach out, just do that, and check out, what I do if you resonate with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me and for the space.
Yeah, of course.